Special thanks to the super sponsors of my channel and the Ramp community. They are Schumann 3D Blast, Shinewolf, Ryan DeVille 23, Ministry of Ennui Control, Metric Conversion, Nubix Cube, Velsheran, Thingy, the Temporal Discussion Podcast, Lemon 314, Lord Entropy, and many more. Visit David X Newton on Patreon to join the ASCII Brigade. Okay, we're now in the part of Ramp where I have to wing it through building a Doom map. I'm going to go with a kind of speed map approach on this one, doing a fairly basic Doom 1 style map that's still a complete level. If you'd like other approaches, I've done the Factory series, the Clean Out series, which were fairly involved videos, building a map from start to finish. In 2021 for Ramp, I did getting a basic room going. In 2022, I did a slightly more involved set of videos. But this time I'm going to see if I can cover just about everything there is, or at least the basics, as much as I can. We're going to map in Boom Doom 2 format, like I mentioned before. Map 01, we're going to leave it at that, and we're going to use Doom 2.1 as our base resource. If you are using free Doom 2, the visuals will be a bit different, but otherwise this will be exactly the same. So we've got a blank canvas. You can hit the Draw Lines mode or press Ctrl and D to start drawing. And we'll just left click out some vertices. Right, there's our first room. We can press Q to go into the 3D preview mode and fly around with ESDF. So we can see what our room looks like. Not terribly exciting at the moment. So let's go into vertices mode with V. And drag those out with the right mouse button. Drag those out with the right mouse button. I got the right mouse button correct the second time I said it. We're going to go to Things mode. We're going to double click there to place a new thing. And we're going to select Player 1 Start. Make it face left. Say OK. Let's just test that. And there's a room. So far, so unexciting. So let's bolt onto this a bit. I'm going to make this a bit longer. We'll put a little corridor going off this way, and we're going to make a bigger room over here. Don't want to go too crazy with the size, but it's going to be at least a little bit more significant. We can always move these vertices around later, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Alright, so now we've got a room that's a bit bigger. I'm actually going to make this a bit smaller, select all of those, right click and drag them. And one of the things that was most exciting about Doom when it was first released in 1993 was that suddenly we could have verticality in the maps. We didn't have to be stuck to one floor height, one ceiling height. So in this example, we can select the ceiling and we can drag our scroll wheel up to make this one a bit taller. If we think of the level in vertical slices, each sector is going to be a vertical slice, we can add a second bit to our room. And we can then drag that up to be a separate little section. I might make this just a little bit further down, like that. And what's Doom without some enemies? I always type Zombie Man, but they're not called Zombie Man in Ultimate Doom Builder. They're called Former Humans. Let's put one there, and maybe a sergeant up here, who I usually call a shotgunner by mistake. All right. You'll notice me zooming in and out quite unnervingly. That's force of habit. The more natural way to move around your map is just use the arrow keys and press space. And you can drag that way. I'll try to remember to do that. I will not succeed. Let's zoom into here a bit. You can use the square bracket keys to alter your grid size. And what I'm going to do here is add a door so that the player starts off separated from the action. For making a door, you can hit S to go into sector mode, and you can hit, I think it's Shift and D, it is, to make a door. It'll ask you for the door textures, the track on the inside, the ceiling, which is the underside of the door, and the floor textures. It'll give you the option to reset texture offsets, which I'll come to in a minute. Apply action specials, which will give you the effects of a door if the player presses on it. I should have made this default. I didn't. I'm sorry. And apply tag, which just gives a way to identify the door later. That's all automatic, but we'll go through from first principles first, so we can understand what we're doing. A door is actually a sector where the ceiling touches the floor. If I bring this one down, this is the one we carved out, and I can move that down the way. And what we want to happen is the player to hit that, press use on it, it'll scroll up, and then scroll down again. So let's make it look like a door. We will use the Big Door 2 texture. And you'll notice that it's not really a door, it's a door and a half. Because the door texture is 128 units long. This line is, I think, 160. It is down in the bottom left, where you probably can't see on the video, length 160. So I'm going to move my vertices around to give a bit of a indent, like this. Let's measure that again by using Control-D. That's 128 now. And I'm going to make this a little thinner so the door isn't quite so thick. Yeah, 16 units is usually a comfortable place for a door. We can move the texture around by hitting up, down, left, right after selecting it. Shift and right, or shift and left, shift up, shift down. That was difficult to say. We'll move the texture in increments of 8. And we've got to do the same on the other side. Okay. What I'm doing here is I'm going into lines mode with L, and then I'm pressing F to flip the line depth that I'm over. You can see that line depths, which have two sides, with the turned on the outside of the map, have a little tick in the middle, and the tick indicates which side is the front. In Doom, you could only activate lines from the front side. I don't think it matters in UDMF anymore or GZ Doom, but that's the convention that I've grown used to have the ticks facing outwards on a door. I'm going to select both of these. And now we want to apply an action. Doom actions are notated in a way that seems cryptic at first, but will start to make sense. D means a door action. W means this is activated when the player walks over it. S is when the player switches it, which is similar to a door. And the 1 or the R means this will happen once or this will happen repeatedly. So the action list is fairly rigid by the way that Doom was originally laid out. But I'm going to select this one. This is a very common action. DR, door repeatable. Door open, wait, close, and monsters can also use it. If we want to identify which sector this will happen on, we can give this line a tag. So if we tag this with 1, and we tag the sector with 1, then those lines will activate that sector. They'll perform their action on that sector. Let's just call this base.wad for now. And if we open this up, that basically works. Alright, you probably noticed that it didn't work very satisfactorily because these edges of the door went up and down with it. We can fix that by selecting these and selecting lower unpegged, and that will cause the engine to start drawing the texture from the bottom instead of the top. In simple terms, it means the texture will stay put when the door rises and falls above it. And usually you'd want a texture like door track on there. Alright, let's close that up again. So this little area here will be where the player starts off And having the door there gives them a little bit of breathing space, gives them the opportunity to start the level when they want. Let's scatter a little pile of goodies for them here. They can have some clips, they can have some shotgun shells if they come back here after getting a shotgun. And because I medically need to do at least one of these, let's put a monitor into this wall. We're going to pull this up with the mouse wheel, pull this down with the mouse wheel, and we can apply texture to these. If you just want to look at textures, you can control and right click to apply texture directly from the 3D mode. If you just right click, you'll get to the line properties. And lines are divided into three parts. They have an upper part, middle part, lower part, and the same on the other side of the line def. The upper part is what appears above the space that it forms. Lower part is below that, and mid texture is on an outer wall, and you can also have mid textures in the middle if you choose to make things like transparent iron grates and things. For now, what I'm going to do is Control C on this, and I'm going to Control V on that. And we could align these manually by using Control up and down, but it's easier to set the upper unpegged and lower unpegged flags like I did for the door, and that will mean that no matter where this window is, the textures will display in the right place. This one is going to be one of the famous comp textures. I'm actually going to make this just a little bit higher up. There we go. Alright, if you want to align textures, you can see that my meddling over here has messed up some of the alignment. You've got repeating lines over here. I'm actually going to put a little bit of sort of neutral texture in here. Doorstop, that'll do. And ceiling 5-1, that'll do. So if you want to align all your walls, you can just hit Control A on the nearby wall, and it will align everything with the same texture so that it all looks neat again. So this room's fairly blank just now for its size, so I'll add a couple of things to it. Going to add maybe a pillar or two. This is actually quite similar to what I did for Ramp 2021, but that's just my mapping instinct. A lot of buildings you'll see in real life are just sort of 90-degree corners and fairly boring, but to spice up a Doom map, you often want to try to avoid regular shapes and vary your floor heights and things like that. What will I put down here? There's no need to ask. I'll put flat 4 feet 14 down there. All right. Let's make a little barrier here. I've got this map drawn out in front of me, the basic idea of where I wanted to go, so I'm not making all of this up on the fly. And we'll put a little acid river through this room because Martian OSHA hasn't been informed of this yet. Okay. If we control right click, I think it's called, yep, nukage. But doing that won't actually make the floor damage the player. The act of damaging the player comes from a sector effect. So if we go to sectors mode with S, right click on it, then we can set a special here. And we're going to make -2 or 5% health. Okay, for getting up here, we want to put a little lift in. And that's done by creating that new sector. And I'm going to make step 1 or step 2. Step 2 might be more suitable here. And I'm going to make this flat one, maybe. I'm going to hit Control and Shift and R together to realign the texture, to set its alignment back to the default. Still doesn't look all that good. What I'm going to do is going to do Support 2, because that's a nice sort of touchable looking texture that doesn't imply a height. Just like before, I'm going to flip that line def, and I'm going to set an action on it. This one is going to be, what's it going to be? Lift. And it's going to be switch repeatable, SR, lift lower weight raise. And I'm actually going to do the fast version of it. Let's start expanding the map down in this direction. After the player's gone through this room, I'm going to lead them down a set of stairs into a sort of cave area. I've got these vertices really wrong. You don't have to be very meticulous about the shapes of sectors. You'll see very irregular staircases in the original Doom because they didn't use curve tools or anything. Curve tools do exist now, and you can use them, but sometimes people want that authentic raggedy look. We're going to go down there. We're going to make a cave, and when you make caves, your regular walls want to give way to very jagged, very jagged formations like that. And we'll cut this out, selecting the section, press delete. Let's use a mid texture here that I mentioned before. I'm going to draw a line through here, and it's invisible just now. I'm actually going to drop the ceiling down here. Let me see how much I've selected. Where are my stairs? Right, I didn't recognize my stairs because I haven't made them stairs yet. Let's do that just now, actually. I'm going to drop this ceiling down to maybe about there. How high is that? That's 72, that's good. I'm going to select all these ceilings. You can do it quicker by holding Control and Shift. And using left click, that will select all the ceilings, I think, on the same plane that's surrounded. I'm going to put some stairs down here. And I'll select those ceilings again, Control Shift, whatever I said, Control Shift left click, and we'll move that until the height's 128. Okay. Let's tidy up these a bit by right clicking and placing some new vertices. What I'm going to do is put a mid texture in here. Mid textures mostly start with mid. I'll use mid grate for this one. Let's see how that looks. That looks okay. You'll notice on the other side it doesn't show anything. So we need to do the same thing here. Mid grate. The other thing is that the player will just be able to walk through this because there's no rules around walking through mid textures, and we can remedy that by saying impassable. I can't remember if you need to select block monsters as well. I think impassable implies block everything, including monsters, so we'll leave it like that. Now you only know this is a cave because I've said it is. It doesn't look much like one, so let's do some more texturing here. If we look at flats, or maybe outdoors. Yeah, that could be good. Let's do that one. And selecting all of those, and what am I doing? This is base, this is not right. Outdoors. Let's use this. Okay. And once again, I could select all of these by going round, but I won't. I'll select just these two. Use that rock texture. Maybe that one? Let's try that on the outside. And then I'll just shift and click there, which will select everything adjacent. And middle click to place it all then. Control and A to instantly align everything. Let's build some, or rather let's dress these up as stairs. I'll use step 5 again. Control A, Control A, Control A. And another thing that is important to give to make transitions between different places is to put a border texture on. So usually I try to make those 16 or 24 because there are some good textures that happen to be 24 texture units wide. That was 25, that'll do. If we use support 3 and Control and R, then you have a distinguished line between these two environments. Because I pulled that down, there's nothing on the upper texture, so we're going to upper align those. Alright, now I moved the ceiling up here, so that's come off the floor. Let's create a new sector so that we can put just these bits down. Alright. And I'm going to build a couple more sectors here and here for reasons that will become clear later. Alright, in the meantime, let's make this corridor maybe go up again to another base area. I'm going to, there we go, put my grid to a coarser size again. And I'll make this one a bit gentler. I'll just put it rising by 8. What's a good basey floor? I really do like these textures, but I overuse them. So I'm going to go with... now I have to avoid these. I'm going to go with this one. All right. Let's draw a little bit more of this base. Going to do this ring shape here. Try to avoid making maps too symmetrical, because if they're symmetrical, they're quite easy to get lost in, and they're less interesting to play. The human mind, or at least mine, does demand some kind of order to these, but even if it looks not neat, it's likely to be a more interesting map. Let's see what we can we do for the door to here. How high is this? 64? Yeah, that'll do. Maybe this is a more cramped kind of base than the one we left. Let's use Comptol for this. And go down here. Going to make yet another staircase, copy and pasting my sectors around. And let's give the player the blue key here. Put it in a bit of a taller room. Again, we'll need to retexture this in a bit, but we'll put it up on a pedestal. Actually, you'll know what, we'll do something that E1M1 did. We'll use TechWall 1, and if we select all of them, shift and left click, and then just right click on these, we can tell this wall to scroll. I will just use scroll texture left, and that'll create the illusion of this thing, whatever it is, at the end of the pedestal spinning round. Let's do a different floor for this one. Maybe that one. And we'll go into things mode with T and put a blue card right there. Okay, if you've ever played Doom before, you know what's coming next. Let's set a trap for the blue key. I'm just going to draw a line that's not connected to anything across the corridor. And then I'll add some apparently innocent looking computer panels. That'll do. I'm not going to texture those yet because what's going to be behind them are some little holding pens for monsters. Again, trying to resist the temptation to be neat here and just make these little misshapen rooms. All right. Since we're here, let's sort out these walls. Put vertices on there to make it 24 units wide. We'll use support 3 again. And then we'll use some more base textures. Let's use something a bit dingier than the Star Wars base that we started in. I'm looking for these brown textures. Yeah, this one will do. Okay, we can come back to this in a bit. U for upper. What is it? Unpeg upper texture. Same again. Alright, so these indented computer panels, I'll actually make these go like that, so I've got space to put my fake doors in. Yep. Alright, so I'm going to move this sector, and this sector, and this one, and this one. And I'm going to move these up so that they touch the ceiling. What can I put over there? Cement textures? It doesn't look great, but, you know, we're speed mapping here. We'll live with it for now. We are going to set a tag on each of these. It's going to be tag 2. And this line is going to be a walk once, and we want the ceiling to lower to the floor. And this is going to be tag 2 as well. And UDB helpfully gives us arrows showing that this line will affect these sectors. Alright, in front of us there's going to be a farmer human, but there's also going to be a chain gun. And we're going to give a couple of imps from each side. And maybe a sergeant. And a zombie man here. Okay. One of the other things we can do that I haven't touched on yet is we can make this a bit darker. I'll probably do this throughout the map because it's a bit bright just now at 192 brightness, it says down in the lower left. So I'm going to lower that to 144. This one can stay at 192 so that the key's highlighted. And then maybe these will be very dark. Yeah, about 96. We'll see how that works. The back sides of these aren't textured, so I'm going to copy and paste a texture there. Doesn't matter a whole lot because the player's never going to see them. Alright, so that's the blue key. Alright, let's see what else. When we pick up the blue key, we don't want the player to have to traipse all the way back here with it all being the same. So what we can do is add another couple of actions to this line, or rather we can add a couple of more sectors that will be affected. Oops. Let's make this go to there, and let's lower the ceiling down a bit this time as well. That is ceiling 48. That is what? Let me peek inside here. Ceiling 64. There we go. Let's add a couple of spectres, these invisible pink demons, to get them on their way back. We can do the same on the other side. Put a load of imps in here, maybe. That'll probably do. And to make this come out of nowhere a bit more, we'll disguise these as walls. So once again we'll make the floor and ceiling meet, and we'll just put some textures on there. Okay, these need to all be tagged 2 as well for them to be affected by the blue key there. Alright, let's also... let's put some pinkies behind this bit of wall as well. Give the player something to worry about here. Because at first, the first time through, the pinkies will notice, but they won't be able to get to the player. The next time they're not going to be so lucky. Going to move this rock right here. Right. Okay, there's the blue key. Let's have a blue door for the player to notice up here. Usually when I'm making a door, I make 3 sectors close together. Because if you just do one on the wall, I'll demonstrate somewhere else. If you just have one texture on the wall and you put your door there, then your door is going to be unavoidably the height of the room. But if you put it back a bit, you can lower the ceiling along the threshold. I'm actually going to move this up a bit. Give it a step up. And then you can control the ceiling height of your door by moving the ceilings that are around it. Alright, same as before. Let's move this door up a bit. Use another big door texture. Maybe use the big door 1. I don't use that very often. 2, 3, 4. This one's 96 units high. There we go. Oh, and we want to put our door tracks on. Looks good. Now, it's polite to give the player some indication that this door requires a key. And that's usually achieved by using the door blue, or door whatever colour it is, textures. Going to lower the ceilings of these little indents as well. And align everything. And that basically looks okay. Alright. Once again, we need to set an action on this door. So I'm going to go to lines, flip that one round. Sorry, lines, select, flip that one round. That's the sector. We're going to put 2 lines here. Our action this time is going to be door 1, door blue open stay. Alright, so that'll make sure the player needs to have the blue key before they set foot through here. I was going to make this room just straight on from the door, but it's going to be much more interesting if I actually angle it a bit. Let's do a trap like John Romero did in E1M2, where you step onto a lift and it lowers and just dumps you into trouble. That'd be a weird room. There we go. Alright, so we're going to make that our lift. Let me just try to imagine what I'm doing for a moment. The lift needs to be on the border between the 2 rooms. It's going to go down about that far. Our ceiling is going to go down to there. Yeah, I'll make this down a bit further. This is going to have the step texture to indicate to the player that it looks lift-like, it looks interactable. And this time, we're going to make that line a walkover line. W1, lift, lower, weight, raise. Maybe I'll... no, walk repeatedly. Lower, weight, raise. Once again, we'll need to assign an action. Tag 3. Okay. Let's make one platform here. Trying not to make this absolutely identical to the room that inspired it. But yeah, let's put some farmer humans and an imp here. Couple more imps from the side. And we'll put a switch just diagonally on this wall. Alright, let's raise these up so that the player's got to deal with problems coming from a height. I'm actually going to make this a bit bigger. Maybe a lot bigger. And this can have support too. And because this wall will be revealed when the lift goes down, we've got to make sure that there's a texture on that as well. Just putting in whatever nooks and crannies come to my mind. Let's make this comp word little closet. Let's put a step in there. Maybe drag it back a little more. Okay, on with the map. If I put the switch, this I'll demonstrate this first actually. SW1 has some good switch textures. It doesn't look too bad here, but it's obviously too high up. If we lower this to the ground, we'll have too tall a switch, so we're going to use the texture that the sector that borders the switch, lower its ceiling so that we have one switch at a reasonably correct looking height. That'll do. A bit of doorstop to make the border. Maybe not. Maybe a little metal one. Metal? Yeah, that'll do. And that will give us access to a corridor behind here. A few more stairs. There are often shortcuts, by the way, in UDB to do things. There's tools like the stair builder on the left-hand column. But when I'm building maps for an audience, I prefer to just do everything manually. Let's get those steps. Maybe put a door at the end. I'll make the door this side, actually. Oh, this is such a tiny little room. Let's improve that. That's better. And we'll move this one up so the doorway is 64 units high. Do the same thing that we've done for other doors. Put the door track texture on, make it lower unpegged. Move this down, put a door on it. We'll use this one. Oh, that one's a bit shorter than I expected. There we go. And this will actually be our exit room. There we go. And it'll just have a switch at the end. I rather like this one. Is that not 64? Let's realign that. No, I've just put it on the wrong wall. That's my problem. Copy, paste with middle click. There we go. Let's use metal 2 here. Maybe tech wall up here, I don't really know. As is Doom tradition, we'll put a pinky rushing at the player here. Alright, so let's just recap what we've built here. We've got a player starting here, open the door, fight through the base, down to here, get the blue key, come back the way, deploy the blue key, and then I haven't done a couple of things. I'd like this sector, tagged 4, to come down the way. We'll use a lower weight raise, not walk, SR, switch repeatable. SR, left lower weight raise fast. I'll do. Tag that with 4. Again, we need to make sure that there's a texture behind here. I'll get them into the corridor up here. I didn't ever put door actions on here, so we're going to do that now. And I'll actually demonstrate one of the things that Boom does for you, because you just have the predefined actions in base Doom, but Boom introduced generalized actions, so you can have parameters. You can say that this will act like a door, it will be triggered by switching repeatably, or door repeatably, it will go at fast speed. The action is to open, wait, and then close. Monsters can use it as well, and it will wait 4 seconds before closing. So instantly you can see how that's much more customizable than the surprisingly rigid actions that Doom gives you by default. Door stop to those. Still got a ton of texturing work to do. But let's make this exit S1 exit level. Okay. Alright, let's run through this and see if it works. So we've got our clips here, we've got some enemies. Here's our cave section. I want to make this a bit more twisty so the player has difficulty navigating it. We've got our little secondary base. That didn't work. We'll explore why later, but we've got our spinny thing on the platform. Alright, we've gone through the blue door. We definitely want to give the player a bit more in the way of weaponry. There we go. Can we get past the pinky? We can. Alright, that's a basically functional level. Let's look at what went wrong down here. I bet I used the wrong action. I used ceiling lower to floor fast. That seems okay to me. What went wrong? I'll tell you what went wrong. It's because of Doom's sometimes confusing action names, because I don't want the ceiling to lower to the floor. This is the floor of the sector, so I want the floor to lower to the floor, if you see what I mean. That still trips me up, however many 30 years later. Sorry, small crisis there. So instead of doing that, we will walk one floor lower to highest floor, or lowest floor, one of the two. It doesn't really matter because none of these sectors have floors that are different on either side. This is quite a good time to tell you that Control and F9 lets you start playing with a temporary player start right next to there. Alright. So that springs the trap. And even if the player runs away, they'll be caught by these monsters as well. Okay, forgot about you. So this is a start to a map. I could do a couple of things that I noted in the playthrough, like making navigating through this cave a bit more awkward, put more obstacles in the way, but we would want to make sure that the pinkies can still move around and bother the player as we like. One of the things that makes maps interesting is secrets. So I'll just put a little one in here. What I'm going to do is have a secret door at the back of this cave that leads the player back up to the starting area with a couple of bonuses. Maybe there's been an alcove in this wall. Shall I do yet another computer console? I will, but in a moment. Let's make some stairs. 1, 2... I'm thinking. How shallow do they need to be? Let's move this up to the ceiling. Need a couple more stairs over on this side. Is that enough? Yep, that's enough. Okay. Let's make this more concretey floor. Put some more step textures in here. And this is going to act like a door. So we're going to put the door track textures on it. And we're going to move that down. And on this side, it's going to look like a fairly standard computer station. I've always been annoyed that there isn't really a good section in Comptol that just works as a 4x4 panel. The best you can really do is split, not that one, I think it's that one. Yeah, split your texture into two. But that's solved with custom textures, which I'll go over in just a moment. And on the other side of here, we're going to make this a door. So this time, just from this side, we'll give that the door action. The door actions are actually unique in that if you tag them with nothing, they will just operate on whatever sector's on the other side of the line. Can be dangerous to rely on that. GZ Doom actually expands that to, I think, all line def actions. So if you've got a switch action with a tag 0, it'll activate the sector on the other side of the line. Vanilla Doom will activate all the sectors tag 0 in the map, which is just about every sector, and you'll have chaos and madness and bloodshed. So I find it better to get into the habit of tagging absolutely everything, even if there is this convenience that you can have of tagging things with 0. Alright, for this, Rock 5, we're going to use the very similar Rock 4 texture there. It's probably incredibly obvious that that's different. But that's what happens when you're colorblind. It's very difficult to decide what's going to be very obvious and what isn't. This one is going to be switch once, ceiling lower to floor, just like I failed to do last time. And like I said, if we were aiming for GZ Doom, we could tag that 0, but it's bad practice to do it and rely on it. It's amazing when Penny's at the opticians and she's given this book, and I look over her shoulders and I have to just watch her reading out clearly random numbers from a book that doesn't have any numbers in it. It's a surreal experience. All right. And what was it? I was going to tag this, rather not tag it. You put the special to 9 to be a secret. In UDMF it's a bit different, but in vanilla Doom and Boom, if a sector has effect 9 on it, it'll be counted as a secret. And in a secret area, you'd want a couple of medikits and so on, and maybe a little bit of an ammunition bonus as well. If you find yourself struggling with just the stock textures, I haven't really done any texturing to this map, but nevertheless, you can put in some new ones. Let's go to Game Configurations and add a new resource to this. I've included a couple of WAD files with textures in them in the Ramp Starter Pack. OTEX and 32 in 24 are two very good texture packs that are very extensive. They will be included by default in Ramp 3, the compiled project, so you don't need to do anything special to use them. I'm going to go to Ramp Starter Pack and Resources and 32 and 24. OK that, and it'll reload all my resources. And now if I open this up, you'll see that I've got this new option here, and in addition to the 427 textures that Doom 2 gives us, we have a further 2,245 that gives us some rather nice additional options. Not all of them go together with the Doom aesthetic, but this is a really great community resource nonetheless. So that's a basic Doom map. I will spend some time fleshing this out and retexturing it and so on, but for a start, that's the basics of what you need to know. I know I went at breakneck pace through this. I hope that some of it was somewhat useful. If you would like more, then feel free to look at the previous Ramp tutorials, the David Develops Doom tutorials on my channel, or come into the Discord for Ramp. It's full of extremely helpful people that are making maps as well, and I'm sure they will be just as happy as I am to see newcomers to Doom mapping. So have fun!